Hello, my friends. How are you? It's been a while since I've chatted with you from my video blog. Forgive me for that, but I've had a bad viral cold infection. And this is the first time that I think that I can reasonably intelligently visit with you and talk about things of mutual concern. But before we begin, do me a big favor. Please hit the subscribe button down below. It really helps me. I'm very close to 300, so that's incredible. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And hit the like button if you like what I have to say. Well, I grew up in a time when Republican Party main thing was to keep government out of our lives. That Ronald Reagan and especially Barry Goldwater, the father of modern day conservatism, and Robert Taft just thought government had no business in Americans' lives. My God, how time has changed. Right now, the Republican Party wants to regulate, own you, and regulate your life from 9 to 5 at least. It is almost astounding at the number of laws since the beginning of the year that where there are Republican supermajorities that they have passed that intrudes in every aspect of our personal lives. Government has no business in certain aspects of our lives unless it is to protect a human being's civil rights and human rights. Now, let me tell you some of the stuff that's been going on. I'll start with what has to be Congressman Jim Jordan's favorite new legislation in Kansas. That legislation, as you know, Congressman Jordan used to be a coach, requires that all student high school athletes must have their private parts, their genitalia, checked out by their coaches before they're allowed to participate in high school sports. Now, I don't know. Jim Jordan might be able to answer why this is a good piece of legislation, given his history at Ohio State. But I got to tell you, that is just offensive. But if you think that's offensive, go to Florida, where they want to not distribute tampons, and they also want a record of when a girl's period is in Florida. Or we can go to Texas, where they just have said that they can send social services into any home, that they think that a transgender child might be receiving support from their family. And if it is determined that that trans family is supporting and loving their transgender child, the state has a right to go into that home and remove that child and even any other children in that household. Now, I'm not making this shit up. You can't make something like this up. It goes on and on. Governor DeSantis has now extended the Don't Say Gay process clear into senior and high school. That means there cannot be any gay or student straight alliances in high school. It means that we can't talk about our history. It means we can't even acknowledge our parents if both of our parents happen to be of the same gender. Tennessee, I mean, you can go to prison as a felony on drag shows. Now, that's not just an attack on us. It's an attack on the entire arts community, because if you don't believe it is, you only have to go to Texas, where they just passed a law that if you're male and use makeup on stage, you have violated the law. Think about that. If you're a male actor and you use makeup on stage, you violated the law. It's in Texas. That's what they want. I'm smiling because it's absurd. It is the most personal violations to talk about the menstrual cycle of a young girl, or having high school student jocks line up to see if their genitalia qualifies them for sports, to be forbidden. Pulling books off shelves. They tell us what to think. They tell us how to act. They tell us who we can be sexually. They tell us what we can go view as entertainment. They tell us almost every aspect of our life has now started to be regulated by the Republican Party in states where they have a supermajority. Now, of course, to me, one of the most worst ones most grievous ones is Tennessee, that has punished with severe penalties if you do drag. In Florida, they have threatened to cut off school districts that allow drag visitors to their schools. Funding in Tennessee, universities are threatened with cuts in budget. And most importantly, just after the slaughter, 4 people in a Christian school, horrendous, 9 and 8 years old, I forget the ages of the young victims, but horrifying. Tennessee's response to that was to expel 2 African Americans from the Tennessee legislature, representing over 170,000 people in Tennessee, because they dared to do a demonstration in Tennessee's floor of the House. By the way, a Speaker of the House who apparently turns out doesn't even live in the district that he's supposed to represent, which is against the Tennessee law. But I don't see any movement to expel him. It is pure, blatant, racist action. Now, sometimes we throw the word racist around easily, sometimes too easily. But this is just blatant, old-fashioned Southern Jim Crow Klan law, expelling these 2 members. Ironically, there were 3 members who did the same thing. One of them happened to be the white. Guess who didn't get expelled from the legislature, even though she felt that she did the same thing the others did? The white one got saved. Chaos, craziness is breaking out in our state legislatures, where Republicans have a supermajority and a governor, or at least a supermajority that they can override to veto the governor. By the time this year ends, there's not going to be a moment of your life that you can't make a decision on your own. Your sexuality and gender is going to be regulated. Whether your woman's body is going to be regulated. Whether you can take certain medicines that have been approved by the FDA is going to be regulated. What kind of car most likely is going to be regulated. What kind of fuel you can use is most likely going to be regulated. You're going to have your genitalia examined. You're going to have to report your periods to the most personal of information to high school counselors. You're going to have to, what you can eat, what you can say, what you can read is all going to be regulated. They're telling us what we can read, what we can think, what we can believe. And there's legislation in some of these states by the Christian right that wants to regulate how we believe in our personal spiritual journey. What we can read, requiring Bible studies, requiring prayer in schools, financing right-wing Christian schools. The fact of the matter is, it is absurd, and it's hard not to smile at some of these laws. I don't even imagine how anyone could vote on these and feel good about themselves as an American in a democracy. But it's not joking. And it's happening almost every day. And it's more blatant and more repressive and more serious. Now, yes, we'll take some of these to courts. And yes, maybe we can do something about a couple of them. But these are laws now, folks. Laws. Up to high school. And if you don't believe me, ask Governor DeSantis' personal police force, because they passed and gave him his own police force just so he could enforce the election laws. Now, clearly there's stuff we can do, but we're going to be busy. So just face it. And if not, then we basically deserve what we're going to get. And that means you've got to get off our all of us, our lazy asses, and even mine at 77, which struggles at times, to do what we can. I hopefully can give voice to the people that are going through this. Hopefully you listen to my voice and will do something about the fucking situation. Now, there's moments of hope. The Wisconsin Supreme Court race I would have bet you would have not been on anyone's radar 6 months ago. That young people, I would have told you that young people wouldn't turn out for a Supreme Court race. I would have told you that we most likely would have lost it closely or won it very closely. I would have been wrong in all three accounts. And that's what gives me hope. A record turnout of Wisconsin voters gave a landslide victory to the liberal who is pro-choice. Students, despite the fact that Republican election bureaus cut the number of ballot places on campuses so that the students would be discouraged from voting, some waited hours in lines that went around the block to vote on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. We won that, and as a result, we now control that court, and we can deal with the unfair redistricting, and we can protect choice. Now, there are like 17 states that have the initiative process, either for a constitutional amendment or so forth. I think in every one of those states, we should put choice on the ballot. And I think on some of those states that we should put some sort of provision about government and people's private lives and what's their business and what's not as a constitutional amendment. We could call it the Goldwater Amendment after Barry Goldwater, who used to say, I don't care if a person's straight in the military, I care if they can shoot straight. And I would put a choice amendment, and I would get our best legal minds so we don't trap ourselves with sloppy wording, and get a privacy amendment about what government is allowed to do in our homes. Because if we don't, and those amendments I would put on the ballot for 2024 to help us take states like Ohio, to help us take states that we need to carry on these issues, and to turn out our voters. Jim Jordan, McCarthy as Speaker of the House, who half the time I really believe he doesn't know where he's at. Marjorie Taylor Greene is now getting profiles on 60 Minutes, have no business being even close to the instruments of government, let alone become leaders in this country. Now, Jim Jordan's district and Marjorie Taylor Greene's district want to elect them over and over again. That's their business. We certainly are not going to start expelling people that we disagree with, or censoring people that we disagree with, or becoming one of them. We're winning in these initiatives because we're talking about people's individuals' privacy and liberty. We're talking about the exercise of democracy. If we have to shout and pound the table like Jim Jordan does, if it makes us feel good, then we have no power. Because we have righteousness on our side, we have the argument on our side, and if we can't speak softly and make people listen, then we better focus the message better. So far, so good. Everywhere the choice has been on the ballot, we have swept it. I think that all these other issues about how old Joe Biden is, or this or that, and the lack of perfection in this Senate candidate, and the lack of perfection in this Senate candidate, that can come later when we fight for the hearts and minds of the Democratic Party. Right now, we're in survival mode. And we're in the mode where literally people are talking about breaking up the United States on both sides, by the way, not just the right wing. So are progressives. I mean, I can't get over the fact that I live in a state with over 25 million people, and we have 2 U.S. senators that have the same vote as the people in Wyoming, who doesn't even have barely 700,000 people in their state. And they're dictating to us their policy. We're financing those things, I mean, New York doesn't get back the money it puts into the government. It goes to Kentucky, it goes to Arkansas, it goes to Tennessee, it goes to Mississippi, it goes to Alabama. Talk about welfare, we're their bank. Our tax dollars are supporting these idiots in their sweep attempt to not only regulate every aspect of their life, but own us. Literally slaves to tell us how we can eat, sleep, breathe, vacation, learn, how to seek knowledge, how to help others. So this is serious. I never thought I'd have the day where I would talk about these kind of laws actually becoming laws. I mean, where the state reserves the right to walk in to a home and take the child away based on their gender. Didn't think that would happen, but it is, and it's law. And just to give you an idea of how some of these bubbas are thinking, Governor Abbott of Texas is going to pardon a guy who was just found guilty for shooting a Black Lives protester to death. And he was found guilty. And Governor Abbott, in about 5 minutes, said, I will pardon him. So we now have a second Kyle Rittenhouse. It reminds me of the old days of Jim Crow, when people would kill civil rights leaders. They suddenly would get pardons. They would be found innocent. These people are going around popping off demonstrators. So we have power. We have justice and equality and righteousness on our side. We are supporting, not oppressing people by passing laws on what they can read and not do and who they can be. We are supporting the right of each and every American to privacy and a freedom from government intrusion into our personal lives. So get on the bandwagon here. A lot of work needs to be done. I'm glad to be back talking to you. Please subscribe. Peace to you, man. Peace.